Michael, it's great to have you here at Covenant Presbyterian Church. Thank you for your leadership in the community, and it's always good to see your smiling face. For the benefit of people who might not know, could you just tell us briefly a little bit, what is the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County?
Man, our whole goal is empowering young people to be successful, right? So we run after-school programs. We help young people graduate from high school and go on to college. We just launched a campaign that's going to go public in a couple of weeks, where we're going to teach kids how to become plumbers, carpenters, electricians. We do a lot of things. We help young people and their families. We feed kids every single day. So our goal is just to be there for young people in Dane and Walworth County, to help educate them, to help support them, so they can grow up to become, productive citizens like me and you.
Nice. And it looks like there's lots of new construction or new buildings and new initiatives going on.
Yeah,
what are some of the things? What are you most excited about that's coming up?
We got a great project coming up right now. It's amazing, but when you deal with so many different people, it's a lot of different personalities, right?
Yeah.
You deal with it as a pastor.
Sure.
And so we are now about to build, I think, the largest youth building trade center in Dane County. So we're about to purchase a building in Fitchburg, which is about 17,000 square feet. We're going to renovate it, and we want to create pathways for kids who don't go to college. So, in Madison, over the last 5 years, we've helped 4,500 young people not only graduate from high school, but attend college, with 97% of our kids graduating from high school. What I've learned over the years is that only about 27% of working age adults have college degrees. And so what about those kids who don't go to college? So in Madison, the average building trades person make about $42,000 a year. And so we want to build this facility. We're hoping by the summer of 2022 that we have this new facility that's going to create pathways for kids in skilled trades.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. So you sort of touched on this already, but just looking at Madison, looking at Dane County, what are you seeing as some of the biggest challenges that we're facing together at this point?
This has been a very, very tough year. You think about, what happened with COVID, the presidential election, and now that, COVID is not behind us, people still got to be safe.
Yep.
But I think we got to talk, we got to go beyond social media, we got to break bread with one another, and we have to seek understanding instead of being understood. It's important for people to have conversations, and it's important for people to listen to one another. It's important for us to understand each other's culture. This is a very, very diverse city, right? The fact that less than 25% of our city are made up of people of color, and you look at the number of people of color who have been elected, who have been appointed to positions, of being hired in critical positions in the city. I don't see any other city doing it at the scale that I've seen so far, so I'm proud of that. Now, with that being said, we still got a lot of work to do, in this community, and I believe this city is big enough, but I think we're small enough that if we work together, we can accomplish some amazing things for young people in this community. I remember when I spoke here 5 years ago, I don't know if you remember, God, can I think of a couple names now? My mind, the Petersons.
Yeah.
Do they still go here? What an amazing couple.
Yeah.
I get a letter from them one day, and Miss Peterson says, I have all these Disney items.
Yeah.
And I want to give them the Boys and Girls Club. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm just going to give a bunch of these little toys to, kids in the community. And then somebody told me stuff is worth like $300,000. And we sold it all on eBay. And because I came to this church at that moment and inspired Fred and Lana Peterson, we were able to help build a new child care facility in Sun Prairie, and that would not have happened without their support at the level that it did. And so we have to figure out what's our lane in giving back. Here's a woman and her husband who decided to give something they had been collecting, for dozens and dozens of years, and now they're going to pay it forward in perpetuity for hundreds and hundreds of kids that's going to be walking into that McKenzie Family Boys and Girls Club.
That's awesome. And you also met a guy named Eric Gerard.
Oh yeah.
Pickle man, and I picked up those pickles.
Yes.
Club logo on
Man, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, what an amazing company with Van Holden's. I mean, we've created this national partnership. They sell millions and millions of pickles, and when I walk into gas stations and see that Boys and Girls Club logo, and knowing that a small percentage of those proceeds come back to not only benefit our Boys and Girls Clubs, but Boys and Girls Clubs across the country, is amazing, and it all resonated by somebody sitting here in this church and reaching out saying, how can I make a difference?
Yeah, and you talked that day about loving our neighbors, and that's kind of our core ethic around here. We talk about learning God's love and living God's love. We like to learn things when we're here, but not just to say that we're smart. We try to put it into practice and make it real. So this month we're talking about celebrating church and how we're better together. Do you have a word for the people of Covenant Presbyterian Church, or a word of encouragement about how we are better together?
Yeah, so I'm just going to first acknowledge that, God is so good. And I think about, my life's journey and how God have protected and covered me as a kid that grew up in the projects, as a kid that couldn't read and write, but still was able to not only get an associate's degree, but a bachelor's degree, an MBA, and to just finish at Harvard Business School as early as last week. And that didn't happen by itself. That happened because there were some people who invested in my life. Some looked like me, some did not look like me. And I think when I think about the church, churches are some of the strongest institutions in our community, in my opinion. And when you have a faithful congregation, an amazing leader like yourself, you can move mountains for those who need us the most. And so when I think about bringing people together, I think about unity. I think about stepping up when there's challenging circumstances happening to marginalized people, in our community. I think about churches bringing people together for a variety of different causes, and I don't think there's a better organization in our community that can bring people together than our faith-based institutions, including our churches.
Nice. I read a book years ago, and the pastor's contention was the local church is the hope of the world.
Yeah.
Maybe that's overstating it, but I appreciate your words. One last question. We've been the Presbyterians have been part of the Bike for Boys and Girls Club, which is now the Move for Boys and Girls Club. We've got a couple people here who are walking 50 miles. We've got, I think last time I looked, about 20 people signed up so far.
Yes.
Do you have any words of encouragement for the Presbyterians? You can look right in the camera right there, and use your opportunity to invite some people to join the team, or tell us about the event coming up.
Yeah. Let me just first say thank you all for your support. This church has been involved with Boys and Girls Clubs for a long time, and thank you, Pastor, for your leadership and all that you do. I would tell you right now, this Skilled Trade Center is going to be the biggest project we've ever worked on, and we want to be able to create pathways for young people. And so I want to encourage you to go to Move for BGC, make a contribution to the church team that's on there. Register to
Presbyterians.
Register to ride, come and volunteer on that day, and we're always looking for people that can give of their time, their talent, and their treasure. I think the greatest gift that you can give to a young people is the gift of economic freedom. Giving them the gift to read, giving them the gift to educate themselves, but also giving them a pathway to careers, and that's what we're going to do this year by creating that foundation. And we need members of this congregation to plug in, whether it's joining, whether it's one of our board committees or our board, or helping to raise money or to volunteer. It takes the will of this community uniting around not only causes for Boys and Girls Clubs, but there's hundreds of causes in this community, whether it's kids, whether it's senior citizens, whether it's people who are sick. If we're in a position to give of our time, our talent, and our treasure, including our faith and what God has blessed us to be able to give to others, we need to take advantage of that.
One of my favorite verses comes from Genesis 12, which essentially said when God says to Abraham and Sarah, I'm blessing you so that you can be a blessing to others.
Yes.
You're certainly an example of that. So.
And that's what life is all about, right? It's like, how do you utilize your life to be a blessing to others? And I try to live by that.
Yeah.
So whether it's being a blessing to your kids, I always try to be a blessing. I love my wife. We've been married for 17 years, and I have a responsibility to make sure that she feel blessed in terms of how I treat her, how I respect her, how I support her. And then that cascade to our kids, and then that cascade to the community. And that balance is important. In order for us to really thrive and do well by our community, it starts in our home, and then that cascade out to the community. What I've learned is that you can't be out in the community doing all these great things if you're not, if you don't have your own ministry at home really tight. And I've just been fortunate that I got an amazing wife. I have 3 amazing kids that I'm proud of, and it's because of my wife that I'm allowed to be able to be out in the community and do things for others, because she does a lot to take care of the home front. And so I just got an amazing partner. And so that's my advice to your congregation. Take care of your family, give back to your community, and utilize this amazing institution to be trailblazers and difference makers in our community.
Yeah. Sometimes when I lead prayers, I don't know if we're going to use this on the tape or not, but sometimes when I lead the prayers of the people, I'll include help us to not take our loved ones for granted.
Yes.
And I know an awful lot of people over the years, and I've had temptation to do the same, to be so important in the world or the church or whatever that I, so I really appreciate it.
It's important. I'll tell you, like being at home a lot during the pandemic, on one hand it was challenging, but it was a real blessing to be able to be with my kids every day, to be with my wife every day. And I'll just be transparent. I've never spent that kind of time. It's like you go to work and you see your wife and your family at night and weekends. But the pandemic, made me realize how important my family is, and not just being there, your body being there, but being there in the moment and paying attention and being there for your kids. As a father, you have that responsibility, and as whether you're a business leader, a nonprofit executive, or entrepreneur, it's also important that you have that balance. And if you're successful or not successful, it's always important to give back to those who need our support. And somebody's situation is always worse. You might be thinking, man, I got a challenge in life. I got issues. And when I was in this Harvard Business School program, last Friday in one of our classes, there was a gentleman that was from Kenya, and he runs a nonprofit there. And here's a guy that's telling me how there's no running water in the programs that he run, and that they got sports programs, but the kids don't have, shoes. And so we're gonna have our kids from Madison, and we were very fortunate that the NFL Combine and Under Armour, we got $1 million worth of shoes from them, and we gave a lot of it out. We're gonna send some of that stuff to Kenya and have our kids to communicate with that. And while our kids have challenges here, our kids at least got water. Most have a place to stay. Most can at least get a meal a day. And in other countries, they may not have that. And so it's just important to know that no matter what your situation is, that there's always somebody that is struggling more than you.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one more question that maybe we could weave in somewhere. Can you think of any specific example that you can talk about, like a family or an individual that has been really blessed and benefited from the Boys and Girls Club?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to talk about John McKenzie and Joe Ellen McKenzie. I watched this couple provide a full scholarship. It was the largest scholarship ever given to Boys and Girls Club. And I remember them calling me on a Sunday afternoon. No, I'm sorry, it was a Sunday early morning. And John said, man, I can't believe you picked up the phone at like 7 a.m. And he said, you know, I want to provide a $100,000 scholarship for a Boys and Girls Club member. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's amazing. How many kids are you thinking? And he said, 1 student. And I said, wow. So we did this open competition. And I actually think it was the largest scholarship ever given to 1 student by an individual donor. This young lady, 5 years later, gets her bachelor's degree from UW. So she just graduated from in June. There's a young lady who has done an internship and has worked very, very closely with this family. And think about, here's a young lady who is now graduating from college and has no college debt. And so his family created a real pathway for her. And now she'll be able to do exactly what she want to do, and there's opportunities there lined up for her. And so that's something that I'm really, really proud of when people step up like that. I've also seen dozens of our kids now graduate from college and go on into their careers, and seeing them come back and say, I just bought a house, I just bought a car, I now have a child. So I've now been here long enough to see some of those things. I'm also very proud that our community step up in so many different ways. I mean, we've had hundreds of volunteers come through our centers, and I look at the relationships that many of our stakeholders have had with our kids, and it is very, very inspiring to see how they're paying it forward for others.
It's awesome.
Yep.
Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for all your good work in the community.
No doubt.
Glad to work with you.
No doubt. Thanks for having me, man, and really appreciate everything that you all do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no doubt.